All right, so we picked our spot. We're headed out. Well, we're about to head out. We're looking at our empty truck. Picture me and you. This is one of our earlier trips together as like officially the fair chase. We had done trips before that. We're looking at that empty bed of the truck, wondering what we're going to put inside to make sure our stay in the woods is comfortable. So basics you need for every whitetail hunt, no matter where you go, no matter if you're in a hotel, what are some of the basic things that you're bringing along? And I sprung this question on you. I didn't really give you a preparation. So this is more aimed at like just what comes to mind, important things.
For whitetail, what time of the year?
Any time of the year.
Any time of the
Something
year?
that never you always have with you.
Base layer. A solid base layer. Merino wool, hands down base layer. Having that ability to just layer. Do I want to put it on? Do I want to take it off? Do I want to have a fleece on, fleece off? Like having your clothing system that fits your style of hunting. Not what somebody else is doing, but what you're doing, right? You can copycat them all you want, but they may be doing something just a little bit different than what you do. So having your own clothing system that's dialed in for your hunt.
Yeah, I like that. No, and we've spent a lot of time messing with our clothing, like working with different companies over the past. Even for a while, we went totally just on our own to see what we liked, what worked best for us. And actually, we've settled on a lot of the stuff by 2.0 Gear has really worked well for us. So like, you know, like you mentioned, I'm always wearing that real light, like the 150 weight merino hoodie. And like you can use that as a base layer when it's cold, or it can be your only layer when it's warm. Other things, you know, when I'm thinking through like things I always bring, it's like that kill kit, right? So it's like your knife, sharpener. I'll say this, I started to bring plastic gloves again, or not plastic, whatever those, you know, like surgeon gloves. I got a free box, so that started this off. But like when you're in the woods and you're able to keep your hands clean, especially if you're like living out in the woods, it is kind of nice to like not get that bacteria and stuff, not have to worry about getting the poops in the woods, you know, that kind of thing is a big deal.
What kind of poops you're taking?
I don't
need surgical gloves.
I mean, like you don't want to get some gut bacteria on your glove or your hand. You eat later, you get that animal gut bacteria in your gut. The other thing that I mean, for me and you, for whitetail, I mean, we're always bringing some sort of our saddle system, right? Although there'll be times where I don't do a saddle. I'll say this. In my backpack, I always have camo netting.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I always have it, and I always have a butt pad that I bought that was square, and I cut into a line so it fits in my pack nice, and I can double it over on top for a seat. But like whether I'm in a saddle or I'm not, literally always have that in my pack. You probably can't see it. It's literally right there. I'm looking at it, but. No matter what, no matter where we go, like that is something I always have, because it's like, then you get out there and it's like, oh, the tree I really wanted to get into is fine, but like, I want to be able to pivot and move 20 feet that way, but there's no tree. All right, I'm making a brush blind and kind of making that work. So
I think I taught you that.
Did you?
I taught you that.
I mean, it's my go-to move. And I would say I spend probably 50% of my time in a tree and 50% not in a year at this point. Yeah, there was a period of time where I didn't even go in a tree. I spent years just on the ground.
I remember that. And you still haven't bought like a military style camo netting. You're still rocking with that Kmart leasey.
Hey, yeah, you know what? You keep spray painting it and cutting it down and tying it together again. I feel like it just adds to the realism of it, you know? Okay, so I mean, there's basics, and we've talked like at length about this in past videos, whether it be like, you know, tree stand, saddle, whatever. Sticks, not like kill kit, you know, raincoat, whatever those things are. I always bring like a contractor bag for setting stuff on, for putting stuff in, keeping it packed clean. But now let's talk specifically about like when it's hot out. Like, what are you wearing? What are you wearing when it's hot outside? Like it's August 8th when we're recording this. This will be coming out in September. There'll be some deer seasons open here soon. Like, it's hot.
Least amount as possible.
Yeah.
Like if it's hot, there's been a couple opening days, October 1st, where I think it was close to like 85 and sweaty. It was miserable. Yeah, you want to go in as light as possible. You want to create as least amount of sweat as possible. You don't want to perspirate at all. If you do, just take a breather. Or if you know it's going to be hot that day, get there early and just slowly walk out. Don't try to cut it out as late as possible and then bum rush out because you know how to get there and everything's good. Like, just go, take your time, walk out, try not to sweat.
And that doesn't sound right. I like to just run out. I'm basically, when I hit the woods, I'm walking so fast, it's a slow run.
So you're doing my buck run.
I can't not. I don't know why. I'm just so excited to get out. I'm going to be covered in sweat by the time. Quick shout out to another amazing sponsor of ours, Kifaru International. If you're like us and love hunting in some of the toughest places, you know how crucial having the right gear is. Kifaru makes some of the toughest, most reliable backpacks and tents out there, and it's all made right here in America. Whether you're hunting in the backcountry or headed to your favorite deer stand, Kifaru has you covered. Keep your eyes out this year, especially as they're launching a ton of amazing new products like the new Arc frame that just came out. So next time you gear up for an adventure, make sure to check out Kifaru International.
No, it's something that breathes, that's lightweight. I've even done it in like Baldwin when we were up hunting up there one year. We were way back and we followed a 2-track and just bombed out there, set up camp. It was so stinking hot, dude. I literally walked out in my boxers at the time. I mean, that was a time, too, we got crazy. I mean, we were strapping, like, trees to our climbers, like dead branches to try to brush it in and everything. So here I am in my boxers, in my knee-high rubber boots, because that's all I had, walking down this ORV trail. And people are, like, bombing by me just like, what the heck, dude? Like, I'm still sweating, but it's so hot out. That's all I could do. I just tried to cool down and just walk out. But back then, man, that was some tough sledding with those 25, 30-pound climbers on it.
We didn't have the resources or the technology we have now. So it was just like, and we didn't have the know-how either. So, you know, when we've talked about this already, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, for the rest of the series, it's like half this, like, you can read about or hear about, but it's not experiential knowledge. It's not like it's something you've learned. You know, you have to, like, go and do it wrong. And, like, man, I can picture you walking around. That's a picture I got saved at the old memory bank.
Like a giant, like, pine tree turtle.
Yeah. No clothes on. just about red boxers.
Big old thighs hanging out. Man, that would, yeah. And then I saw Steve doing the same thing off the other way. And that was a good time.
We learned, I'll say though, I learned a lot during those periods of time. I had some rough nights of sleeping for being unprepared or forgetting stuff. Like, I have a whole system now for not forgetting stuff back at home because, you know, we get out there once and I didn't have my sleeping. I literally forgot do you remember that? I think it was actually turkey season. I forgot my sleeping bag, froze my butt off. That was one of the worst nights. And I remember just listening to you snore, wanting to smother you in your sleep because, like, you're just kind of like, you know, arms crossed on your chest, sleeping like nothing's wrong.
Pretty sure I slept through a thunderstorm and some revving trucks bombing down that 2-track.
I thought, yeah, we had when those rednecks came at like 2 a.m. with whatever they were. It was so dark and so unexpected that it couldn't have been as bad as my mind made it. But I was freaked out, and you were sleeping like they weren't even freaking 10 feet outside.
Screw them.
Now I want to add one more thing to warm early season hunts. The Thermacell.
Bugs. Bugs are my arch nemesis.
Freaking hate bugs. And Thermacell, from at least my experience, and I always play the wind, so I don't know if they actually are bothered by the smell of it, but I haven't had any issue with, like, scent, like, them freaking out. I figure if they're going to smell that, they're probably going to smell me, and they're going to be gone anyways. But that is quiet. You hang it, it gets rid of all the bugs. I don't know what voodoo magic it uses to do it. It's like supposed to be like a chrysanthemum, like a synthetic chrysanthemum flower. Don't know exactly how it works, but like that would be something I would add. Obviously light layers, and then you throw bug repellent as well.
Mums, you say? Like the
chrysanthemum,
like the fall blooming plants in the landscaping?
I don't know.
That's a chrysanthemum.
I don't know much about flowers.
People call them mums for short.
Is that why
That's what it is, yeah.
Yeah. Chrysanthemum.
So you're telling me I could pick some landscaping and put it in my bag?
No, I don't know about that. I just know that Thermacell is supposed to be somehow like it, and it works. So, I mean, you tell me. I would say take it out. Take some mums out. Let everybody know.
I'll try it this year. But no, I mean, like if you got a bunch of mosquitoes stinging through your lightweight material,
Which
right?
they will.
Which they will, like you're trying to sit still and you got to keep stretching or slapping and doing all this stuff, that's going to ruin the hunt right away.
Drive you nuts. All right. The converse, the opposite, like you're packing for cold. Like what's your basic philosophy for getting ready for a cold?
Again, this all this falls back to having a good like clothing system. Like my system, I can take half of it away during the early season because I know I can still use my core early season clothing for my later season cold.
Yeah.
All those base layers I have on, I can use for the later season as in like undergarments. So you're for sure taking your good base layers. You want to have a good insulation layer, like a lofty puffy that'll help trap heat.
Mm-hmm.
And then some sort of shell for the over the top. So like a perfect system is some on the outside that will break wind and rain. Break wind. Windbreaker.
Yeah.
Break wind.
Yeah.
Something that's wind resistant if you're sitting still. That can possibly shed some water. Doesn't need to be 100% rain proof because that's reserved for your rain jacket on those types of days. Some sort of fluffier insulation, whether that's a big thick fleece or a down puffy, synthetic puffy, anything like that, and then a good solid base layer to help pull that wick off, wick the moisture.
Yeah, and I follow. I totally would agree. Like that's the 3-part system, and there's like different variations. Like you mentioned like a heavy like a fleece for like a insulation, like that grid, that Vision Hybrid jacket from 2.0. That's
Love that.
It's like a puffy mixed with like it's just a great midweight insulation. We even tested their Navor bibs and jacket this last season, which is going to be coming out by the time this episode's out, or will be out soon, from 2.0. And man, just to have a night when it's cold out, to have bibs. Like most of the time when I hunt, I just wear bibs. I don't wear the jacket. I'll just use that and put it over top. I mean, to have insulation and exterior and kind of a wind repellent all in one. To your point earlier, it's like I'm still going to be wearing my merino like hiking pants, like Velocity pants that are the ones by 2.0, and then my thin, merino shirt. But like when it's cold, I'm just adding things on top of it. So it's not like you're swapping things out. You're getting the same use. That's why it's like there's certain clothes that I wear hunting that I pretty much every single time I go hunting I wear.
Yeah, I mean, once hunting starts, like once you get out of the truck, one of my favorite things to do is to put on my base layers, and I'm pretty sure I stay in those the entire trip. Like I don't change out of them.
Right.
I can sleep in them. They don't stink. Like it's some weird voodoo magic in merino wool that it doesn't stink.
Yeah.
And you just keep them on the whole time. Like if it's hot, I'll just wear that. If it's cold, at least I have something on already, and throw something heavier on over top.
Gloves. Do you wear gloves?
Yes, I like fingerless. Just for the dexterity of the fingers, I can touch things or phones if I have to when I'm out there. And then if I'm sitting, I'll throw on like a bigger shell or a mitten, just because if it's all their own individual fingers, I feel like they just get a little colder for me at least.
Yeah.
Same thing with my feet. Once I get there, if I can, I'll change them out because my socks get wet. My feet.
When you get to your stand?
When I get out there, I'll keep an extra pair of socks and I'll change them out before I go out.
Do you really? Do you just like hang them on the bottom step or what?
I'll put them back in the bag.
Yeah.
Flip them inside out to make sure they dry out a little bit. But obviously you're creating more of an odor when you do that. Like if your feet are sweating, they're going to stink.
Right.
And you got stinky socks in your bag. And I'll leave my bag on the ground, but I'll wrap it up and just to make sure my feet don't get cold because that can be heat.
Do you wear a hat, beanie or anything?
Yes, I wear a hat. I'm bald. So I got to keep that sucker warm. In fact, last year we went out over by the river, over where you live, and somehow it was hot, and we were walking out, and I remember tucking my beanie in behind my bino harness, and when I got up to my stand to reach for it, it was gone. So I'm like, oh crap, that's fine. It's not really doing anything. Sit there for a little bit, and all of a sudden I felt like a dink, 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 and I started getting like raindrops on my head. I'm like, okay, that's not bad. But then it started turning to like freezing rain. And I'll tell you what, for people who have hair, you're thankful for it. because if you got a bald head, it gets cold quick. So I literally had to like cuff up the hood of my jacket and try to like peer it around my ears with something to stay cold. And I like zipped it up past my nose. And
OnX is the title sponsor of our podcast here at the Fair Chase, and it's a must-have app for all of us who love to explore the outdoors. Whether you're hunting or hiking or fly fishing, OnX gives you detailed, accurate maps right at your fingertips. With property boundaries, topographical features, and trail data, you'll always know where you are and where you're headed. You'll also likely be able to figure out where that big buck is headed to. Plus, their offline maps mean you're covered even in the most remote locations. OnX is the ultimate tool for outdoor navigation, making every adventure safer and more enjoyable. Download OnX today and explore with confidence. That was I remember the morning. I remember when I found out you lost your jacket, I was like, you had to be freaking cold. It was such a cold morning and you had no sign of covering up.
it was cold. You lose a lot of heat through your head. I want to say it's good, like above 50%.
We'll say 80%.
Yeah, you lose.
But we're making that up.
You lose a lot of heat through your head, and I was losing all of my heat that day.
I want to add though one often slept on, but not. I feel like it's actually been more and more popular. It's like food. You got to feed. You got to throw coals in that fire. Like the more when you eat, you will start actually your body gets warmer. And so if you ever watch any like military rewarming drills or whatever, part of it is like you do certain things. You get in a certain type of sleeping bag or whatever that wicks the moist, whatever it is. But like one of the main things about getting your engine heated up again is like throwing calories in it. So eating while you hunt is like huge.
Oh yeah, but like the right kind of food.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about potato chips or Little Debbie's or anything like that. Like the quick burning, carbohydrate type stuff. You want something that's your body's gonna actually take in and nourish it a little bit and burn that metabolism. So having good quality food, good quality snacks to snack on, like nuts, that's huge. If you can have pop a few nuts in there, good to go.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. You can't have like food that's going to give you the squirts either. Because like people will show up for these hunts and they're like
pickled sausages. Like,
oh, you're eating
little facts. I heard people eating those. They're like, oh, the Red Hots.
Yeah.
The Red Hots. People like eating those.
You're going to have you're going to have a bad time. All right. So we've done hunts, lots of hunts in tents and some hunts in hotels. Like how does your packing change? I mean,
drastically.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to pack for your whole shelter now. You don't got anything to go back to. So it's all about laying it all out on the ground before you go, seeing what you have, and then seeing if it can all fit in your pack or how it's going to fit in your pack.
Yeah, especially if you're backpacking in or whatever, like we've done in the past.
Yeah. Manitou trip, for example.
Yeah.
We literally had to take everything we needed 4 or 5 miles in and not being able to come back because the boat left. So
And what was funny about that trip was in my mind, I was like, oh, it's not a mountain. So I'm going to bring so much extra stuff. I brought a tree stand or a tree saddle. I brought so many clothes. We ended up shooting, I ended up shooting that buck. So we had to like carry all of this on top of a buck. It was like, it was so much heavier than any Western hunt pack that I've had, just because I was like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's flat terrain. And do you remember like that walkout was brutal?
The walk back was...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The walk home was... Do you remember though, I was just telling Laura this, we get dropped off by that boat. We're on the island to hunt. I took those kombucha those beers, and I hit them in the water under this rock. And like we hiked out that night. Do you remember when we found those? That's like, oh, they're still here. We can drink these. That was freaking awesome.
That was a good
hot tip. Hide a beer in the water that stays cold, and when you're tired, you can drink it.
I remember walking back. We were loaded up with everything, way too loaded, like you said. We had aspirations of taking out our saddles and setting up in spots, but it was just...
I had a tree saddle and ground blind stuff in this pack.
Yes. It didn't even touch it. We never used it.
No.
The canopy, the lower canopy of the trees were so high, we would have been...
So low.
Right.
Yeah.
The intermediate canopy was so high that we would have been up and then looking down at another sub canopy and not even being able to see the ground. So like we were ground hunting the whole time, so we way overpacked on that one. And then on top of that, you shot that buck, and we had to hike that whole thing out. And the pack that you had probably wasn't big enough to hold all of that. So it's like, how much of James's gear can we put in my pack now so that he can hold his buck?
Do you remember how many ticks that buck had on it?
That was
I've never seen so many alive ticks in one spot. Just we threw it in the back of your pickup when we finally got off the boat, and I'd been so tired had not thought about like this. All these ticks are like right here, you know. And so I'm walking, not thinking about it. I throw it, and I remember looking. I just see your whole truck bed just crawling with
no bueno.
creepy crawlies. All right, so I don't want to forget to ask you about this boots because you have an opinion about deer hunting boots.
I have never found a good boot that fits me.
Really?
I don't know why. Maybe my feet are messed up, but I got to talk to somebody about it because I feel like the boots that I have right now, at least for the terrain that we're hunting, is just, you got to have the right insole for the area that you're hunting. Like right now, mine are just rock solid stiff.
You've got mountaineering boots.
Yes.
Yeah.
That do not do well here in the Midwest big woods.
They'll be great when you're out elk hunting and bear hunting.
Sure they will. But for here,
have been.
They're heavy, they're clunky because there's no flex in them, and I need something that I can just move a little bit quicker. So like, boots are a big deal to me.
Yeah.
Lightweight.
I feel like people see things like crispy boots or whatever that are like, they're really nice boots. I've had, some pairs of those, but the kinds that you buy out west or for steep terrain, rugged terrain, they need to be stiff. It's important. There's plenty said about that. But when you're whitetail hunting, and I think a lot of the hunting people do, they think they need a different kind of boot than what we need. Like, you want to be quiet. You're not carrying a ton of weight most of the time. You need something that'll breathe, especially like if you look, actually, literally the boots sitting there, I'll have a very almost like a high top running shoe that's like off-road running, right? Ultra. That's been a great boot. I go between those, and when I'm hunting around here, I'll do those in gaiters, or I just do knee boots. Yep. Knee boots, you can walk so far in if you get the right kind. It's time probably for my muck boots to go. I feel like lacrosses have had some in the past, and there's a lot of nice boots out there, but I wear the back of them by the heel out quite fast, But I mean, between those, it's like you want something that you're going to be in water for whitetail. Oftentimes, you're going to get in a swamp or whatever, so you're going to want some coverage, but you're going to want to be able to move and be sneaky, so that stiff sole doesn't. There are benefits, I will say, and I'm kind of even debating myself here. It's like a stiff sole when you're saddle hunting. Sometimes it's kind of nice because you can use the stiffness of the sole on your platform, and it's like you're on another platform. It's great. And I've done that too, but I found lighter boots just are nice and they're cooler. And then when it's cold, I've got really insulated boots that I put on,
Like I said, my feet sweat.
Yeah.
I got to change them out. I got to have something that breathes. If not, I got to bring an extra pair of socks. But then at the same time, I can't have too thick of a sock, because if my sock doesn't fit in the boot with my foot, then my feet are getting constricted and they don't get right blood flow, and it's just.
Have you found a sock you like?
I mean, anything that's 100% merino.
Yeah.
Anything that's wool, it's hands down way better than cotton.
This episode is also brought to you by 2O Gear, innovators in technical hunting clothing. 2O is a newer company. It's based right here in Michigan, and whether you're hunting elk in the mountains or chasing antelope in the plains or traipsing through swamps after that ruddy buck, 2O has you covered with premium jackets and pants, merino wool layers, everything you could possibly need to stay comfortable in the woods. Their products are engineered for functionality and durability, ensuring you stay protected in any conditions. Plus, their camo is really effective. We're big fans. So don't take our word for it, though. Go to 2ogear.com and check it out. I've been a fan, and I've exclusively used it for 10 years. Costco socks. The merino Costco socks. Whatever the reason for me, they're not total merino. They're like nylon or whatever, but they don't stink. They're like the right thickness. I'll wear them in the winter. I'll wear them in the summer. Huge fan.
Like full on boot sock, or
yeah,
they have
a full sock. Yeah, yep. Highly recommend those. We're not sponsored by Costco,
or we could be,
but we could be. All right, let's go through the list here. Binoculars. What are you grabbing?
Binos, dude. I, for the longest time, never used to have binos. My eyes used to be brilliant, but now they're kind of degrading a little, and I just need to see a little bit farther. So, I mean, my go-tos are the 10x42s.
Yeah.
Perfect size. They're small enough. They got a good enough magnification on them. Good field of vision. That's just my go-to. 10s
and 8s. 8s can be good. Sometimes 12s. We've been messing around with that stabilized binocular, ours, the kind that we've been playing with, those kite optics.
Yeah,
they're 16s, but like
they don't feel like
you throw the thing on, the stabilization technology on, and it's like I've been debating, like they're great for in the car when you're looking for deer at night.
Oh yeah.
And I might bring them even hunting around here. They're 16s, which feels weird, but normally I wouldn't use them because you can't. You're too much hand movement. But with that stabilization on, man, I've been blown away. I took them out west, and I saw. I mean, it was just incredible how much easier. I was handing it to kids to use, like when we were in the parks and stuff, and like they were just like, "Holy cow! I can see this animal." It's like you can see hair and you can see stuff because you're totally rock solid. So. Been a fan of that. What they need to do is take that technology and throw in a rangefinder in it too. Then you got like the trifecta, but I haven't seen that yet. All right. 2 final questions. These are really important, and these are questions we've talked about quite a bit. I'm gonna ask you, and then I'll answer myself too, because I just love these questions so much. What's one thing you have not brought in terms of gear in the past, but you wish you did hunting?
Think you mentioned it earlier as something you always take with your whitetail system, but it's something I usually haven't in the past, and that is a knife sharpener.
Oh.
When you're successful and you're processing that animal out there, having a sharp knife is like night or day on what you can actually accomplish. Like the less cutting of into the meat and more just finesse work around that. Cutting into the meat, like, introduces bacteria into it. So if you have a good sharp knife that you can just run along the side and just start peeling back the skin, it's just, you don't have to sit there and hack at it and cut your fingers. And
you could do that. As I'm asking the question, I'm looking at my moose. I was close to stitches, but we, obviously didn't have it, so I basically bled out. But I was doing that.
Yeah,
scissor hand.
Yeah, samurai style.
But my knife had dulled, and what was funny is I left my knife sharpener back at camp when I shot the moose, and so the knife I was using, you're gonna get dull going through an animal like that, but it's nice to have. So yours would be knife sharpener.
Yours would probably be TP.
I mean, yeah, you know what? That's better than my answer. Yeah, mine would be TP. Like toilet paper, I hunt a lot of mornings. And I found one secret to my success, even when I'm hunting locally, is that a weekday morning is some of the emptiest woods you're going to find. A Wednesday, at 8:30 in the morning, there's just not a lot of guys hunting, right? But that coincides with my schedule, and I there's many times where it's like nature calls here in the woods. A couple things with that: be cool and dig a hole and bury your poop like a gentleman. Like no one needs to see that. Secondly, you always need more toilet paper than you need. And I have regularly used underwear and hats and things you don't want to have to wipe with. So yeah, actually that's better. I was going to say either a power bank for like charging. Sometimes I'll bring my 360 camera out there or my phone or whatever for whatnot. And I'll also sometimes like a 5-foot, like a paracord. Paracord is nice. And like I use it up and then I forget to refill my bag. And so there have been times where I'm like, man, it'd be nice to have a little bit extra paracord in there. All right. So on the flip side, what are things you bring and you never use? This is an ongoing question for us.
This question always circles back.
This the most useless
thing in your pack.
You should always ask it to really narrow down your stuff.
I don't know. I'm perfect.
I don't think that's true. I'll start. And I said I'll start, but I don't even have an answer in my mind. I'm looking at my pack right now. Oftentimes I'll bring extra straps for my backpack. Sometimes you need like one, but I'll bring like a bunch in case like I need to strap like a whole tree or like a bunch of stuff to my pack. And I've never used all of the straps that I bring. So I guess that could be one that I bring, and it's probably a little unnecessary, but
That is a tough question.
yeah,
That is a very tough. I have no idea.
and use that as a piece of advice. It's as advice from us, and this is something we actually. The reason you probably don't have a lot of extraneous things is because we talk about it so much, and it's a good question to ask. Like, what are you bringing out? What can you? And we said this so many times, but like the way that you pack October 1, your first sit, and then for us this year it'll be January 31 because that season goes late in Kent, but and other counties in Michigan, but like between October and January, like the things you bring out into the woods early season and how much less you bring by the end of the season after you've sat 60 times, it's totally different. And like, remember that last guy, because he usually is smarter than the front guy who just takes the whole kitchen sink thinking, I'm going to bring it all. You don't need it all, right? So narrow it down. All right, well, let's call it good there. So we've picked spots and we've picked areas, we've scouted, we've talked about packing. Next episode, I want to talk about like specific strategies for diving in and actually getting after it.